first place Boston Minutemen.
Left midfield, number 10, Wolfgang Sunhope. Center forward, number 8.
Good afternoon
Jeff
from Boston
Davies.
University's Nickerson Field. My name's Crane Davis. The gentleman sitting next to me is Kyle Roth Jr.
And
He
at
plays for the
left
Dallas
wing,
Tornado. He
wearing
won the Superstars
number
last
3,
year. Kyle,
Alan
welcome aboard.
Moore.
Thank you, Crane. It's good to be here, and this is going to be another great game today. Of course, this is the replay of the earlier New York-Boston game that has been, the commissioners decided needs to be replayed because of the fans coming on the field and attacking Pelé, something that's not that unusual.
In that regard, we should also mention that Pelé is not going to be starting today's game. He injured his thigh about a week ago, and the doctors have said it would be better for him not to play today, to be able to play in the rematch of this game, which is coming up Wednesday night in New York. Boston will have to play New York again. Right now, they're introducing the players. We expect the kickoff any time now. Kyle, what sort of game do you look forward to today?
Well, certainly, Crane, having played New York twice this year, it's going to be interesting to see who is their engine room. Pelé, for so many years in Santos, and of course with the Brazilian national team, has been not only the player's player, but he's also been a coach on the field, and he's directed the attack. And I'm going to be interested to see just who will take his leadership role on the New York team.
Last Friday night, there was a game against Hartford in which Mark Liverich scored the only goal for New York. They lost that one 3-1, and it was a pretty important loss for New York. They right now mathematically could become a wild card entry in the playoffs. If, in order to do this, however, they're going to have to win all of their remaining games, actually the 2 remaining games, both of them against Boston, and they're going to have to keep Boston from scoring. Okay, let's go down to the field. It looks like they're ready to kick off, and let's go with the first period. Kyle, on previous coverage, one of the things that's gotten to me on soccer coverage is the play-by-play, man after man being named. I'd like today to try and stay with the flow of the play and just try to get the audience reminded that it is the object of this game is for the 10 men attacking to get that ball in the goal, no matter how they can. If you can give us a little bit of the, let's start with the offsides rule. There's an out-of-bounds kick. Offsides, Kyle, what is it?
Well, Crane, what that really is, it's to avoid having the forwards or a group of players from one team line up right in front of the goalkeeper. The reason that we have the rule is much for the same reason that you have the blue line rule in ice hockey. It's to avoid there being a ping pong match where the ball is just on the 2 ends of the field and there's very little midfield play. The actual rule itself says that the man receiving the ball at the time the ball is played to him must have 2 players between he and the goal line. And normally one of those players is the goalkeeper. The second is a defender. So often you'll see the forwards maybe not taking what would seem to be in basketball the best position on a fast break. They'll have to wait and make sure that they receive the pass.
Here's an attack now. That's goalie, Boston's goalie, Shep Messing, former Harvard goalie, and it's quite a character around the league. Shep is the only one on the Boston team who's allowed to handle the ball with his hands and then only in the goal area. At the other end, Kurt Kuykendall is goalie for New York, and conveniently he's handling the ball. Very
interesting that both of these goalkeepers have graduated from the American college ranks, and of course Shep is quite a character. He was at Harvard. He has snakes living with him in his apartment, and is one of the more flamboyant young American players in the league.
Okay, now we had a little bit of roughness there and a free kick, which means the ball possession goes over to Boston. They start the play again.
Saw the defender there getting his body in front of the ball. He really had no chance to steal it. He was just trying to
block the shot.
Block the shot, keep the attacker from having an open shot at the goal.
One of the things that gets discussed in North American Soccer League is the amount of long kicking and incompleted passes, Kyle, as opposed to European soccer where the teams play together more often.
Well, actually, the reason for that is twofold. One is probably we don't have the continuity from season to season with the teams. We don't have the players knowing each other quite as well as a lot of the European teams who have been playing together for 10 or 15 years, players who have grown up from the age of 14 or 15 with their team, and that takes an awful lot of teamwork. The other thing is of course, a team like Miami with a great player like Stephen David and Warren Archibald. They're a team that likes to use the fast break, the counterattack. They have the speed up front where they can make sure that that they can beat the defenders. They've got the speed to do that, and so you'll see a lot of long kicks. There's an obvious offsides play.
And that man was down nearer the goal than any of the defenders.
Right. As we were talking before the game, it's not so much who is closer to the goalkeeper or actually even the goal, because an imaginary line is drawn parallel to the end line, and so even though that player was further from the goal than a defender, the fact that he was out on the wing and closer to the goal line was the reason he was offside.
If you watch the footwork during this game, the control of the ball, there's a shot over the goal, Kuykendall jumping for it. You'll notice some very good footwork by these players, especially the players who have been playing for quite a while. And at halftime, Kyle is going to be doing a little clinic for those of you who are interested in playing soccer, especially the younger players. And we'll have that during the halftime of today's game.
And the idea in what we're doing at halftime, Crane, is that all of these players, from Eusebio and Pelé all the way down to even the lesser well-known professional players, have to learn how to work out on their own. And so we're going to go over some of the drills that a youngster or even a college player can work out on his own.
Now that's Manuel Maria on the right wing there for the Cosmos, centering out to Tommy Ord, who's a new acquisition by the Cosmos. And one of the things I was impressed with Ord's game last week, he is the kind of guy who just stays in front of the goal and shoots. And he could be quite dangerous. You may be able to hear the fans were not too happy with that call when against Boston.
Maria was one of those players, the player you mentioned being on the right wing, one of the players that had played in Santos. He's played with the Brazilian Olympic team, played with Pelé over 200 times, and he brings a wealth of experience to the New York team, and the times that we have played against them, he's created an awful lot of problems.
We talk about continuous play in soccer. The clock runs continuously unless someone is injured on the field, and there are infractions, which generally can be described as doing anything that's ungentlemanly to get the ball. There was a trip, which was reasonably ungentlemanly, so New York will get the ball. What other things can you be penalized for?
Well, we have really two classifications of penalties. One from which you get an indirect kick, which is the fouls of less violence, the fouls that in general are committed without intent. Then you have those fouls that are committed generally with intent, for which you get a direct kick, and of course you can score directly from a direct free kick.
There was a nice move. One of the signs of very good soccer play is completed passes, the flow of the play. One of the things I've noticed, the difference between North American Soccer League this year and previously, is a little bit more togetherness, even though the expansion has come.
There's no question. I think the European countries are even now going to the trend where ball control plays even a much greater role. We've played against the Polish national team, the Italian national teams, and the majority of their play is making sure that if they have the ball, there's obviously no way the other team can score. And it's a big psychological factor, too, because in a game of soccer where you're running 8 or 10 miles a game, if you don't have the ball, honestly, having played, you get tired much faster.
One of the things we should mention in today's game, there is a breeze blowing off the river here in Boston. However, it was exceedingly hot down on the field. Kuykendall clearing that one successfully.
We had another offsides call there, the left wing.
Let's see if we can take a look at replay of a little bit of the action while they're in the field. Here it comes in. See the leap, the head, and the collision there.
Soccer is quite a physical game, as you can see right there in the replay. The players don't have any pads, and the speed at which they are running into each other and moving can cause quite a lot of pain when you get knocked down on the artificial turf.
My meteorologist tells me it's 84 degrees down on the field right now. They say the breeze is probably stronger in the vicinity of the Boston goal right now. To the right of your screen is the river, and the wind down there is a little bit heavier. This is an artificial surface, Kyle.
From what I understand, this is polyturf, which is similar to what we have down at the Orange Bowl in Miami. And of course, all the artificial turfs do have an asphalt base, which retains the heat and makes it even hotter on the field than it would be up in the stands.
Nice move. And there's a completed pass. Unfortunately, Boston doesn't seem to be moving down. Went over the net and dropped down the back. Kyle, if you commit a serious infraction, or if you commit a number of infractions during a game, hold it. Why don't we explain this corner kick first?
Well, what has happened there is that the ball went over the end line, last touched by a New York player, in that case, the goalkeeper. And you have a direct free kick from the corner. The ball could actually go into the goal from the corner without touching another player. And it's much more like a set play that you might have in football.
Beginning to see one of the first plays shape up here where New York was moving down as a play. What is it that creates the flow or breaks it up for you when you're on the field, Kyle?
Well, actually, as opposed to many other sports that we're used to, it's the player without the ball. It's what we call off-the-ball running.
It's a rather flagrant trip there.
It was. Werner Roth, the New York defender, knew that it was a bad foul, and you can see that what has happened.
Here it is
now,
again.
He's beaten, and unfortunately, what has happened, we can't see it in this picture, but the foul was committed inside the penalty area, which means that it was a direct free kick foul. And so because of its being in the penalty kick area, we do have a penalty kick.
You may have noticed there Werner on his way out kicked the ball off the penalty kick spot, which somewhat ungentlemanly.
Well, it is. A lot of times it's a ploy to give the goalkeeper a little bit more time to concentrate on the kick, and Werner committed that foul right on the line, and
save it.
A great save by New York goalkeeper.
We'll look at it again on replay here. There's the dive.
The rule on a penalty kick is that the goalkeeper cannot move until the ball is kicked. It's obviously a judgment call, and the referee in that situation ruled that Kirk did not move too soon, and it was a great save.
A lot of the professional football kickers now are coming from soccer, Kyle. How far can a soccer player kick that ball?
Well, a soccer player, because of the angle at which he kicks, because he uses a much longer arc in his kick than, say, an American football kicker can kick a ball maybe 70 yards, 75 yards. But I think the greatest advantage to the soccer style is the accuracy, using the side of the foot instead of the toe, which gives you a much greater area and thus a much better accuracy on your kicking.
Okay, that's a turnover there. It looks like Boston or New York gets possession again. You started in football and went to soccer. When you went into college, you were planning on being, your father was a great football player, and you went into football. What made you switch over, Kyle?
Well, Crane, several things. One was that I had originally picked up soccer just to keep in shape for my football. I was playing baseball, basketball, and football, and had nothing to do during the summers. And so with a group of people that we called the Black Bandits in Dallas, we started playing soccer as soon as soccer came to Dallas. And eventually it came into something in its own. I went to England one summer for 6 weeks and saw that really, I guess, in so many ways, the American sports public were isolationists. We don't realize that there are another 140 countries that play soccer, that play other sports. And Prior to that time, I had no idea soccer was the world's most popular sport. I had not heard of Pelé, and the international aspect of the game, much like the Olympics, is really what intrigued me.
Here's Maria again with the ball, moving in. Takes a shot, gets blocked by the defender. One of the things that the American public, I think, has trouble with is the fact that when viewing soccer, it doesn't seem to have the tension of, say, football or a number of sports.
Well, it doesn't have the point-in-time tension, and by that I mean a play is not over in 6 or 7 seconds. You don't have time to sit down and rest, to talk to your neighbor about what has just happened. There's a tremendous tension, though, in soccer because of there's so few goals, there's so much build-up. When a player misses a shot at goal, the fan does too, and he is just as frustrated as the player, and so obviously when a goal is scored, a fan is just as happy as the player.
There's Tommy Ord, New York attacker, being held a little bit. Maria, shot clears the top of the net. I was mentioning earlier the yellow card. You might want to describe that just a little bit.
Well, what that is, it's the leverage that a referee has. The referee's in charge of the game. When a player is overly violent or he dissents from what the referee's decision is, he can give a player a yellow card, warning him that the next time he commits the same infraction, he will be ejected from the game, and which is well, it's much like a man advantage situation in ice hockey. Anytime you've got an extra man on the field, it's a great advantage, and few players want to be ejected from a game because not only do you miss that game, but you miss the next game as well.
Here's a replay on that, on the trip. Maria, and down he goes. Back to the live action. Boston beginning to move now. One of the most exciting plays has to be the wing coming down and centering the ball to the attackers in front of the goal, Kyle.
There's no question. It allows the center attacking players not to be offsides. You have always the possibility of collision.
There's one right there. Shot right on Mesa.
That was a good position by Sheff in that case.